In July 2021, the UN Human Rights Council passed a resolution on the elimination of harmful practices related to accusations of witchcraft and ritual attacks. This was a result of many years' work by individuals and organisations internationally, including advocates and activists, NGOs, academics and policymakers. Implementation of the resolution is now being supported by an international network. In September 2024, many of those involved attended a conference at Lancaster University to consider the work done so far and to agree how to take it forward.
Well, I hope that by bringing people together in a room face to face, we can have conversations and pursue agendas that just wouldn't have been possible in an online setting as we've been working in the last few years. So we're hoping that we can really move work forward on the resolution and share examples of good practice and experience.
Delegates from across the globe gave examples of how, even today, accusations of witchcraft continue.
People believe anything, and it's really people seeking answers to when bad things happen.
People in Africa don't care about the scientific explanation of albinism. They are just attributing it to, like, you're a devil or your mom is a witch.
So we are trying to, I cannot say the criticize, but we are trying to evaluate what are the bad things are there in a particular religion.
We understand why these things happen to people, and so the public needs to learn about that. And then when they hear the stories of what is happening to people today, there's commonality.
The true scale of the issue is an unknown, but roughly we know an estimated around 12,000 cases around the SIN census data that we've seen. So cases that were identified at the end of a child protection assessment in social care. So that's around 12,000 cases where children were identified as being at risk of abuse linked to spirit possession and witchcraft. But like I say, the true scale of the picture on the national scale, we don't know.
In the 10 years from 2009, there have been 20,000 reports of witchcraft-related accusations and related harmful practices in 60 countries.
If something happens, you look for an explanation. Why me? Why has that happened to me? And so it's an extension of it's happened to me because of, is it God angry at me? Or is it Allah? Or is it a spirit? Or is it something else? The planets align against me. So we always have within our structure of conversation something outside our logical understanding, and the belief in witchcraft is very deep, and it's no different. But what we do with our beliefs is really what's important.
Over the last decade, more than 700 attacks on people with albinism have been reported in 28 different countries. The condition is viewed by some with suspicion, while others see people with albinism as owners of valuable body parts, leading to mutilation.
Some of us are privileged to be in families who are understanding, who give us the love, who support us when we don't want to go to school the next day because of the mockery, because of our short-sightedness, because you cannot see the board clearly. You need to go right in front of the board. So people tend to provoke you. Why are you going there? People put their fingers in front of you, asking you which finger, how much finger is this? And then when you say 5, they make like this, say, oh, no, it's 2. So they know you can see, but not much, and they're mocking you for you to feel that pain. So sometimes you wake up in the morning, you don't want to go to school. So we have loads of dropouts of people with albinism in Africa who are not going to school because of the mockery, because of the provocation, because of the bullying, everything. So it takes a lot for people with albinism. Anybody you see with albinism that's reached to a high school level, have a high school certificate, that's a grace. That's a really person with a strong self-love to achieve those kind of things. So we want to see how we can pave the way or make it easier for the generation yet to come of people with albinism, because albinism is going nowhere. they're going to continue to give birth to kids with albinism. And if we don't prepare the way for people with albinism, then that's a problem. So within the albinism community, you have old, aged, you have kids, you have women and girls who have been abused, sexually abused, every other thing is that is affecting females. That you're talking about the right, gender rights and all. It's double when you talk about women with disability or women with albinism. So it's very, very challenging and very, very complex situation, and that people need to take it very, very seriously.
In Papua New Guinea, belief in witchcraft is increasing.
Yeah, a lot has changed, because when I was there originally, there was witchcraft in certain areas, but in the areas where I was working, there was nothing. There was never a mention of it, and there was no talk of it, and none of the sorts of violence that we're encountering today. That's really happened over the last 10 years. One of the things is the contagion that we were talking about in that last presentation. Stories and narratives get told and spread, and so these ideas about witchcraft have spread into areas that where they didn't think about that before. Where I was started, people were warriors. When there was problems, they would fight, and it was very physical. But now you've got this idea that witchcraft is another dimension, really, and that's only come in recently.
For US podcasters Josh and Sarah, not only is the issue very real today, it's personal too.
I had ancestors involved primarily in the Salem witch trials, actually ancestors on both sides of the accusations, and also some in some other Massachusetts trials that happened before Salem. So my ancestor, Mary Esty, who's also Sarah's ancestor, and our colleague Mary Bingham's ancestor, we're all cousins through Mary Esty. She was executed in the Salem witch trials. I learned that when I was about 15 years old, and I was surprised by it initially, and didn't expect to have that history. I wasn't aware that my people were from Salem Village. So finding that, and then learning also that my ancestor Joseph Hutchinson was one of the early accusers on the very first warrant against anyone accused, caused very conflicted feelings. So both of those have though motivated me to doing what I'm doing now, both being having almost that guilt, but not quite, feeling towards what my ancestor did. I want to give him the opportunity through me to, make amends for that.
Many times authority figures aren't ashamed to say, let's not open that can of worms. But we know this can is open, and we're going to get all the worms out there.
Thanks to the UN resolution, attitudes are now changing and awareness more widespread.
When we first began, no one was talking about it. Now, the fact that it's even reached the stages of having a United Nations resolution is a positive step forward. The fact that it has also been taken up in our context by the Pan-African Parliament is helpful as well. They've issued guidelines around the implementation of the resolution, and that's helpful in the nations where we're working. And we are seeing new laws. So we're working in Cross River State in Nigeria, and there's been a new law which explicitly prohibits the accusations of witchcraft, and that's all very positive. The issues around that are essentially around awareness raising, so that people are unaware of the resolution, unaware of the law, and that's where the churches that we work with and the communities that we work with have a role to play, because by disseminating that information and making it clear that this isn't just something we're saying, even our own laws and even international laws to which our nation has signed up are saying this is wrong.
I think there's a lot of improvement. We've come from a position where the situation of persons with albinism was completely unknown, and persons with albinism were completely invisible. They still remain invisible in many policies, but at least we're now getting to a point where there is recognition that persons with albinism are a vulnerable group, that they require specific measures to be taken for their rights to be protected. There's a recognition of the issues of the attacks, the recognition that persons with albinism have a condition which can fall within the framework of disability, and therefore we need to have reasonable adjustments, accommodations for persons with albinism. And there's my mandate as well, which is relatively new. I'm the second independent expert. The first was appointed in 2015. So all this is showing that we're not there yet, it's not perfect, but we're taking steps forward, and that's useful. Definitely need a lot more to be done. Definitely need, more policies, more laws, and more importantly, implementation of policies. So I'm happy to see, like for example, at the African regional level, there's the AU Plan of Action on eliminating attacks against persons with albinism. And some countries have taken this AU Plan of Action and developed national action plans for persons with albinism, and that's a progressive step. But we need to see a lot more being done, and it being done in practice as well, on the ground.
In India, science is being used to spark rational thought in an attempt to encourage more to question the existence of witchcraft.
If you perform a demonstration which is based on the chemistry, it has got many advantages. The first thing is that demonstrations, it is happening in your presence. You are watching the demonstration and some reaction is taking place in front of your eyes. So when such thing happens, a curiosity is risen in the minds of the students, okay? And once they become curious, I think that is the very basis of any kind of research, okay? So curiosity is very important, and that is risen by the demonstration, okay? So I have performed the miraculous demonstrations. What in by the miraculous demonstrations are the demonstrations performed by the God-man or the tantric, mantrik, who said that they are having some supernatural powers, and that's why they are able to perform miraculous demonstrations. So it is linked with the supernatural power, and the organization in which I am working, we deny completely the supernatural powers. No one can perform any kind of the miracle with the supernatural power, okay? So when we perform the demonstration in front of the students, in colleges, in the common people, with the common people, in audiences also, okay, one thing happens is that they come to know about the pure science, or what is the chemistry behind the demonstrations.
In the UK, the AMBER project exists to raise understanding and awareness of the issues behind what may seem conventional acts of violence.
It absolutely is making a difference. We've reached over 15,000 professionals, frontline professionals, from midwives to school teachers to bereavement counsellors, you name it, a whole raft of professionals who have come to the training, who have fed back that they found the training really useful. It's helped them to identify the risk factors associated. It's helped them to make more robust referrals. It's helped them to work with children and young people.
For those who've been working on the issue for decades, there's still a need for existing laws to be enacted to make a difference worldwide.
And the law is very, very clear that you can have your beliefs, but you don't then take your belief to harm others. And this is where witchcraft and crimes against people with albinism are really exceptional, so that they deserve their own category of discussion, because these beliefs can translate to really, really harmful practices. And I've been speaking along over the years, people with albinism who've lost limbs, where they've just about survived through being attacked because of that belief system, in fact, that their body parts are going to bring luck to a fisherman or to a miner. And it's really, really horrific. And it is time that the way we think isn't in any way used as a cultural or traditional excuse, because the law again is very clear on that. It cannot be said, well, culturally this is where I think I can exercise my own power, because if you're harming somebody, then it's very clear that you are acting outside the limits of any human rights protections that you have. Enforcement is really problematic in many countries, irrespective of whether there's an underlying belief in witchcraft. And we see that many cases of murder are not investigated, they're not investigated properly, there's corruption. Now here, where we're looking at witchcraft belief, as being behind the murder, there's another layer of complexity because some of the law enforcement officers will believe in witchcraft, and so they don't want to investigate because they're frightened that therefore they'll become infected in some way with an evil spirit. So there has to be really a conversation around law enforcement, but looking at beliefs of officers in law enforcement and training around that.
It is an exciting time, especially coming from the background that issues of witchcraft are still so common in Malawi. And when this conference was arranged and I was invited, I felt like this would be a good time for us to collaborate with the rest of the experiences from the world. And we feel like the academia, all different stakeholders are very important to deal with this issue. I'm coming from Africa in general. I would say it is one of the things that gives us a problem in terms of affecting the human life. And many people have been affected, accused, beaten, killed, a lot of violence. Some have even been faced serious experiences. And we feel this should go. And this issue of eradicating the witchcraft accusation is very important at the moment. And we feel the strength that will come from this as a conference, whatever will be deliberating, sharing, and even published, many people will learn. It will be an eye-opener. And I really so much appreciate, and in particular Lancaster University, where we are, that it took this effort of inviting many institutions to come and discuss this. So I am looking forward to good results that from here, when we go to our different places, we'll take the message that everybody should participate in dealing with this witchcraft accusation issue.
The resolution may still be a recent arrival, but there's optimism that a change in attitudes will accelerate thanks to the efforts of the International Network Against Accusations of Witchcraft and associated harmful practices.
We always joke that the witches are against us when we organise anything around this topic, but actually it's all gone incredibly well. We've had some brilliant discussions. I think people have really come together around the agenda and are very forward-looking in the suggestions that have been made. So I think new relationships have been formed, new networks, new opportunities will come out of those. So lots of positive things have come out of it. We've got activists, advocates, we've got human rights defenders, policymakers, everyone in the room. And I think from the perspective of an academic as well, we offer a valuable contribution here with the provision of data, qualitative, quantitative data that will back up this agenda, and it gives it some sort of, it makes sense of the agenda actually in a way that it's not just someone's initiative they're pursuing at length. I mean, for so long we've seen each other on screens, we've worked at a distance, and there's nothing that beats people coming together in a room and sitting around as we just have and sharing ideas. Even though it's just the beginning of this next stage of work, it seems that we're taking things forward, and that's what's important.
I think the fact that there are so many different people who are involved in this, whether they're as academics or as activists, coming together and joining our voices is a very powerful thing to do. And I certainly find the networking, the contacts that you make, the communication, the contacts that mean that you can then share ideas, share strategies that are effective, all of that is very useful in building the case against accusations.
I think one of the problems is hopelessness, that people, especially young people today, they're very often hopeless, and that's really exacerbating these issues. And if you can just try to give them some hope in some way or other, whether it be in an educational way, or whether it be in a religious way, or whatever, that will hopefully see a better future for people.
I think this will reach target audiences that have never thought of this or have never actually considered it as a problem. And it is important to, to raise information that is coming out of this, the data. I see there are lots of academics who produce very stringent research on issues that can then be used in targeting policymakers. So I think, yeah, it's very important to have these kind of events.